Greetings, universe! Welcome to Functional Fun. I'm your host, SpaceC, and with me we have Terracota, an incredible pixel artist who somehow does it all. Environments, characters, sprites, animation. Whew, they're so talented. Terracota, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Terracota, and unlike our host said, I'm a pixel artist who almost do almost everything: environments, characters, and animations. Anything you can think, you can ask for it. I have worked for some famous VTubers like Calliope Mori and YouTubers as H. Wolf, and I'm happy to be here in this program today.
Yay! So happy to have you here. So, yeah, so currently you do a lot of work on assets and stuff for VTubers too, right?
That's correct.
Nice. So, yeah. I hope when this episode is out, the commissions are open. If yes, I will link them below in the description. Yeah, let's start simple. How did you discover pixel art?
Oh, that's a funny story because long time ago when I was pretty kid, eh, I started to discover video games, mostly the RPG genre with the classic style as Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy, uh, the series of Mana,
Mm.
uh, and the sprite world was pretty exquisite. So at one moment I say, wow, I really wish to do an RPG. So eventually I downloaded RPG Maker,
Oh,
and I say, okay, I want to do this, but the RTG, which is the standard graphics pack, I like it. So how I start doing my own sprites. So eventually I took my mouse, start opening a bunch of tutorials, and start putting pizzas by pizzas. My editor
ah,
was
what kind of
sucked a
so?
lot. Yeah.
What kind of
Mhm.
tutorials did you get through in order to actually get started?
Oh, I mean, as I say, I get started downloading graphic scale,
Ah,
looking at sheets, and started editing. I started learning. I started replicating everything, and since that, I've been doing pixel art all my life since
hmm.
10 years. But as it was most a hobby, then I was gradually learning. For
Hmm.
example, one day I learning about palettes, later I learned about doing elements, later about lighting, and the basic rules as anti-aliasing, dithering, everything.
Oh, wait. What is anti-aliasing and dithering? Like, if you're an actual pixel artist, you probably know, but if you're a beginner, then I'm curious, what are those subjects?
Oh, anti-aliasing and dithering are two concepts that is like the first pass you learn in almost every tutorial, almost every textbook, everything.
Mm.
Anti-aliasing is where the outline is made a little softer with the grading.
Hmm.
Uh, and dithering is a kind of pattern you put to achieve some textures, to achieve some colors, to
Mm.
make some effects, and with less colors. Usually, they are fundamental rules for the pixel art, but people like to break those eventually.
Oh, yeah. And actually, one of like another tip that I have for very beginner artists is to look into how to make lines look more smooth, where you draw pixel by pixel, and then some of them are jittery a little bit, where one pixel is right on top of another, and then it looks like the The width of the line is a little bit thicker and at one point rather than the other for line art, I mean. And then making clean lines is when each pixel goes very perfectly after another. Uh, yeah. So this is another third tip I have for beginner pixel
Mhm.
artists. Hmm. If I'm a beginner, if I'm actually a beginner pixel artist, what should I do to improve?
uh, Look, uh, first this goes to our artist. Get
Yes,
reference.
practice.
Look, yeah, look, look for reference. Look for some pretty good artists like Terracota, like Nob, like Tofu, like Xianmu, and I have a folder full of reference. That's the first step. The second step is take your mouse and start drawing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the second coming of Christ. No. As long as you start doing and start reading, you are fine. However, the starting point is mostly running about palettes, about anti-aliasing, about dithering. Those are the most basic level stuff uh, for pixel art. Uh, Usually, when you start working, you start learning, the first error that everybody makes is that the palette is awful.
Oh,
And
yes. Palettes, color palettes, they're so important to get just right.
yeah, uh, and I mean, for example, you when you start learning palette, you will need to learn some basic color theory.
Mm,
And with learning color theory, you will start learning a lot. As pixel art takes long, lots of concepts from every field and is applied to this complex and at the same time simplistic style.
yeah.
So pixel art is, if I had to define it, I will say list that is easy to learn but hard to master.
Ah, yes. Yes, I think that color theory is a very important step in so many art styles and in pixel art especially because it's on the one hand it's so simplistic, but because it's so simplistic, it has to be like because it's so simplistic, it's less forgiving for mistakes because the resolution is lower. So, yeah, color theory is important.
Yeah, yeah, that's really true because usually when you work with canvas Tosma like 12 for 12, every pixel counts.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it can really make a difference between like when you create like small animations, then it really can make the pose of the character look in an entirely different way just with one pixel. I guess you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, that's really true. Many times when animating, uh, sometimes the uncanniness comes with with only one pixel. If you miss the one pixel, or even sometimes when you are animating, you end up having raw pixels, and when you send it the final product, you see the raw pixel, and it's like, oh no. And once you say it and the client see it, nobody will unsee it.
Yeah, totally. Um, Speaking of which, when you create animations or actually like pixel art in general for clients' work, what kind of tools do you use?
Uh, the tools that I use. Look, first, I recommend the Sprite. The
Oh,
Sprite
yes.
is I would say is the actual standard for everything now.
Ace Sprite is the
Is
best. I use it
yeah.
too.
Eh, if you don't want to spend the time $50 that it costs the Sprite, there is a free option that is the graphics scale that it was the standard 10 years ago. Eh, Aside of that, the other program that I use is Clip Studio. But that's only for the sketches because it has a pretty useful tool. You call it perspective ruler, and it will make your life easier a lot.
Ah,
But I will say
perspective
that,
tool. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. However, if you're starting and you are wanting to learn and everything, and you have some knowledge of perspective or some base of art, then something logic is drawing the sketch at hand, scanning it, put it in the spray, resizing it, and drawing over it. That
Hmm.
will help you a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you suggest to first draw it like either on paper or something like that, and then scan, and then draw over it on your computer, right?
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm,
th-
mm-hmm.
that, that's that's all I recommend. However, if you already have some expertise as digital drawing, just use that.
Okay.
Grand, great, grand part of everything is using the tools you already know how to use and starting and practicing and everything.
Uh-huh. You mentioned perspectives first. Um, what are your like good ways to learn about how to do perspectives?
Our perspective. Uh, Usually, you can look. First, you need a theoretical element.
Hmm.
What is perspective? What is a focus point? What is the horizon line? And everything.
Ah,
Once you
yeah.
have the
Theory
theor-
first, right?
yeah, yeah. Once you have the theoretical concept of how vanishing point and everything works, then you start learning about the uh, one post perspective, which is just only viewpoint, the 2 points perspective, which is the most common, but for like say it, the 2 point perspective, and the 3 point perspective, which is to give some height to the drawings.
Ah.
Uh, yeah. So usually, if you want to start learning about perspective and doing perspectives, first, theoretical knowledge. Second, learn the difference between points of perspective. And third, something that it really helps me is taking photos of the street or looking to
Photos, like taking
drawings
photos
or
of when you walk around, you mean?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
Taking photos, looking outside, everything. Then putting the photo in some program or anything and start looking for the vanishing point.
Mm.
Most of the time, the vanishing points will be outside the canvas. So, so you start learning that everything have perspective. Everything you see, everything you made has some kind of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And how to work around that and start creating about around that is what make it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how you start developing your perspective skills.
Okay. So, first, I need to cover the theory, and we will mention in the description below all of the subjects that you just said so people can take a look into them, like the vanishing point and all of that. And then he also suggests to take photos of places in the street when you walk around, then looking for the center point, right? Which is usually like
Yeah,
outside the canvas sometimes. Hmm,
yeah,
I see. And actually, if we want to go back to some color theory and combine it with perspective, then just a small tip there. Usually, when something is far away, then we will use cooler shades to describe it, and then the more we are close to the camera, the colors get warmer and warmer. This is something that also happens like in real life. This is how our eyes kind of see it, our natural eyes, if we have natural eyes, yes, biological eyes. So this is how they view things. So this
yeah.
is
Mhm.
also like a way to combine these two practices. Mm. Um,
Yeah.
about perspective and all of these kind of subjects that you've mentioned before, I suppose you have a lot of deep knowledge about it also thanks to your degree in architecture. Uh, is that right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because the first thing that they teach you in the first months is perspective, and
Uh,
you start doing perspectives like for a year and a half.
oh, wow, that's a lot. Uh, do you maybe can share with us how your stud like how studying architecture in university helped to improve your art?
Oh, yeah, sure. First of all, I didn't say it in my intro, but I studied architecture and have a master in landscape. So, okay, environment. So
Master
yeah,
in landscapes.
uh,
That's so amazing.
yeah, yes. So I have knowledge about buildings, cities, and nature. All right.
Wow.
Now, getting back to the question.
Mhm.
Uh, this is some kind of personal advice. So sometimes when you are in that age where people make you learn something you don't want to because that's what brings money, according to therapy. Uh, Sometimes you will feel like closeted, but when you learn about art, when you learn about creativity, you learn that everything you learn can be applicable from some way to another. And
Mm,
that's what happened to me. Because when I studied architecture, I was like, no, I won't be able to be illustrator and
mhm.
I don't notice. So I just close my gaze and keep doing pixel art as hobby and everything. But however, after something sometimes happen, I started to look like, all right, so I'm doing this perspectives, I'm doing this city, for example, and I have to feel because this is a city from zero, and I say, oh wait, I learning about this in urbanism, so I can make a note here, a hierarchy here, and then everything you learn, you start to notice that it has some function, even if your fields are total opposites. Because in architecture, they don't need pixel art. But in pixel art, you can use all you know about architecture. You can
Mhm.
learn, for example, all you know about anatomy, about chemistry, everything
Yeah.
is just
So actually, whatever you learn at school or in university, even if it's not really related to art in one way or another, even if you're not going to art school, you can still take what you've learned, no matter what it is, and apply it to art and illustration, right?
Yeah, that's right. Eh, Many people say that art is the reflects life, and that's right because everything you learn, everything that is part of the knowledge, everything can be translated to art.
Yes, which is pretty amazing. Yes, I also like this quote. Life imitates art, for sure. So yeah, it sounds like your architecture knowledge is very useful for you right now, especially
Yeah.
with environments. But it's not just like you do not just environments, but you also draw characters. So if we're going back to like game development, then I have a question for you about creating sprites for characters. Mm, when creating sprites for games, usually like you get a complicated design of a character, and then you need to somehow simplify to make it usable, like in a pixel format, which is so much smaller in scale. Um, yeah. So, mm, how, like, what is the process of making a more simplified design? Like, on the one hand, the character still has to be recognizable in this teeny tiny resolution, but on the other, like there isn't much room for complicated details. So, like, how do you choose what to keep and like what to delete?
Oh, that's a pretty good question. Uh, I I would say that mm, can I uh, misdrive myself a little bit as I want to tell something that many people before did, and it was too nice. So, for example, many times the character was designed first the sprite, then they send the sprite to an artist, and the artist made everything according to that sprite.
Wait,
And
wait, wait. So you
sometimes you
mean
got
when you talk, like what you mean is when you are being commissioned
yeah,
by
is
VTubers?
Not really. That's
Oh,
one
oh,
something
sorry.
that happened with, for example, Final Fantasy VI, that
Oh,
the graphic team made the sprites, then sent it to Yoshitaka, and Yoshitaka
oh,
made the characters, and everything ended up being a mess.
oh.
I read it, and beautiful, and talented, but a mess. So, it, all- yeah, so that's the anecdote. So, what I will say is that when turning a character into a sprite, uh, first you have to notice or make a list of the more representative things about the character. Uh, that is personality, for example, how the character is standing, how are their eyes, everything that indicates expression.
Mm,
Even if the character isn't moving, you can lean a lot just by the way it is standing, the way it acts, the way it looks, etc.
but
Uh,
it does sound
lot,
like it's more about the poses that you choose for the character. But what about
yeah.
their clothing? Like, for example, if I have a
Oh,
very detailed sweater and we need to simplify it to make
oh,
it fitting into like
oh, I,
a sprite sheet size.
I was going to that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Ladder, you have to check what are the in the clothing and the hair and everything, what are the most important elements?
Hmm.
Every character has some important elements or that they are there for to call the attention. For example, tails, gems, what the kind of clothing, the type of clothing.
Mm-hmm.
back accessories.
Mm-hmm.
You must be you must notice what are the elements that are more important. So with that you have the list. First, pose, expression, accessories, elements like jewelry, everything. And once you have an idea of what have more importance than other things, then you can start drawing everything, making sure that those elements are there
Mm-hmm.
in a condensed way. And sometimes if a detail is too small or not that important, you can skip it. Or for example, 2 pixels and 3 the element.
Yeah. For really small details, just 1 or 2 pixel, 1 or 2 pixels in a certain color. This is like enough.
Yeah, yeah. Sí, if tend to happen that many times I go clients that send me chats pretty detailed with many keywords and many things, and I just can put 1 pixel in 1 pixel.
Ah.
Yeah,
Ah. This can get messy sometimes.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
Sometimes
there's.
it gets
Oh,
messy.
mm-hmm.
What?
Uh, the general idea is to first make a list of what makes the character recognizable and what is special about the character. After we identify these kind of points, these are the ones that we keep in the smaller scale. And as you suggested for the more smaller parts or the less important ones, we can just either skip them or just do some kind of 1 pixel representation of them in a small scale.
That's correct.
Nice, nice. So I understood correct. Okay. So you also talked about poses. So I think let's also maybe get into that, so like how poses and how animations convey the character personality and all of that.
Mm, that's a pretty interesting topic.
Yes.
Usually when you are working with poses, expression, characters, and mostly when you are starting to animate them to convey their personality, there is a lot of logic applied here. It is about things about heavy elements. For example, if a character that is more heavy will be more slow and have more uh, more strict movement compared to the shift character. Someone funny will have a more open posture, while sunshine will be more closed. I don't know if you understand the metaphor, but it's like
I think so. Like, if I am very crunched and my arms are closed in, it maybe means I am more shy. And if my arms and body takes more space, then I am more open and maybe even dominant.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. That's it. Usually, I can give the other answer still, but in internet and looking at characters and looking to reference, at looking to character design, you can
Hmm.
learn a lot about that. There is lot of resources that say that talk about character personality, about this kind of topic, and it's a good source to check it out.
Do you have maybe an example in mind that maybe we can share in the description?
I wish I have a sample, but usually all my reference folder is a lot of files from different sources from
Oh.
different years. So 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 I don't remember where I got many of the sources.
Okay,
But
so
yeah.
usually
Mhm.
Pinterest will be a great place to start, I think, for all sorts
Yeah.
of references.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Actually, in general high scale animation, I can definitely understand how we can make someone look like they are more heavy with their armor, to make them move maybe slower, to make the armor look more heavy. But in pixel art, everything is very low resolution. So I do wonder if you have any tips on that specifically, because this is like such a small scale, and how can you convey the weight, or I don't know, the swiftness of things just with a few pixels?
When it comes to pixel art, uh, yeah, sometimes it's pretty complicated because the scale you're working is much smaller, so there is less room for doing everything. But sometimes, usually the key is having in mind the keyframes, the 8 wins, and having a theoretical concept of how animation works, how you can convey
Mm-hmm.
weight by, for example, adding particles, by delaying the frame where the moment is made. When you, I forgot the word. The phase where something is pretty fast, so it distorts.
Yes,
Uh,
so a concept in animation that is called smearing, in order to convey,
that's it.
yes, to convey how fast something happens, for example.
Yeah. I was looking for fields, the Bible for illustrators. I forgot that its name.
Hmm.
uh, and looking for this for animating how it works and start doing it because
Mhm.
you can start learning a lot about things, but if you don't start applying and learning them, then you are doing nothing.
Yeah,
it,
so I
yeah,
mean, looking into art books for animations, like for movies, animated movies, for example, I think there are multiple examples there on the process. Um, for example, for Into the Spider Verse, their art book shares a lot of
yeah.
cool illustrations on how the animation works, and I think that one, or honestly, any art book of a movie, of an animated movie, can really help with this. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of animations, aside from angle, aside from sorry, aside from poses and stuff like that, I want us to talk also about angles, because you're very skilled at making rotations for your pixel art. Just a couple of examples of yours, and like you're really good at it. So I would love, I would love you to share some tips with us on how to approach angles for character animation.
All right. Uh, First, let's assume that if you are doing angles for animation, you are already went through perspective, animation, everything. All right. When it
Yeah,
comes
so this is an
to angles,
advanced topic,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Usually, when it comes to angles, you most look look at the element you are animating, not like a 2D entity, but like a 3D element. For example, usually I know that one example is one fish that it rotates. So you know that when it has to rotate, one eye will start to getting smaller, and you can see it. Some parts of the body will start moving and everything. So the key here is Leans on 3D. Leans on 3D. Even if you are doing rendering or 3D graphics, learning about how elements move in the space, how they work, how they art, they that will help you a lot.
Yeah, okay. So to do angles properly, I need to learn about 3D first and to try to maybe play a little bit with Blender or maybe take some 3D characters, 3D models, and maybe put them into Blender and then just understand how they
Yeah,
work from every angle. Okay.
yeah. That that's the way. That's the
Hmm.
pretty nice and pretty good way.
Wait, so does it mean that you also can do 3D models too?
Nope.
No. so how how do you still do that so perfectly?
It's a funny story. It happens that in college I used to like doing 3D models and
Ah,
not
so
doing
you
3D
have
models in a
some
cheetah.
okay, okay. So you have some
Yeah,
background in 3D modeling.
yeah. I, however, my 3D models were awful. I never did something that I was say como, wow, that looks nice. No.
Okay.
I just really hated the 3D models, and for that reason, I admire a lot the 3D artists.
Hmm.
However, as I have to graduate, I had to learn how to express everything with 2D, with perspective drawing, how to make it, and and not getting killed by the professors at the time.
Ah.
So usually it was mostly practice like imagining the object in my mind, observing it, uh, trying to understand it, s- things like that. Because yeah, I don't use any 3D program for things that requires angles or anything. You use theoretical concept, imagination, and good faith in good.
Mm-hmm,
In
mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah. Okay. 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 So I guess if I'm still a beginner, although this is a very advanced topic, maybe a good suggestion would be to look into how 3D models look in the art style that we want to kind of mimic. For example, if we're drawing chibis, then maybe look into 3D model chibis and be able to rotate them from different angles and see how their heads and how their faces behave from different angles. So maybe that can also help.
Yeah, that will help a lot.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, so we talked about both environments and about characters. You're really, really good at both. But I have to ask, what do you like to draw more? Characters or environments?
Oh, look, if you asked me that question years ago, I would say characters, but right now I'm more of environments. I like doing environments a lot more because environment is like many artists are afraid of backgrounds. Usually character artists because they say a background and they get stuck. However, environments are magic. Every part of each environment tells a story, tells a part. How everything gets feeling that way. What kind of personality does have the environment, the landscape, the decisions that were made there, the how each plant grow. Everything is life, and environment shows the perspective of life and in a little canvas. And I think that there is magic there. It's amazing.
Yes. This is like being
Mm.
able to actually create worlds and tell a story about a character through an environment that belongs to them. So I do think this is indeed a very magical kind of thing to be able to accomplish. Like if you're able to draw environments and actually convey a story through an environment, that is such a skill, such an amazing skill to have. And looking at your artwork, I just wow, I'm always amazed with your environments that you're creating.
Oh, thank you.
So maybe if one of our some of our listeners, if they are interested in environment art for games, then I have a question for you to give them some kind of tip. If they, for example, get a character design and now they have to create some kind of environment for them, either their room or a place where they like to hang out, then how would you approach something like that, a challenge like that?
Cuando you approach un call challenge like that, you must be sure about two things. First, all the description of the character. Everything you must know, even everything about that character, because the
Yeah,
way
so
it
character
lies, the
design is
way
not
it
enough.
moves,
We
and
also need
everything.
to know more
Yeah,
about them.
yeah. Knowing a personality, knowing, for example, if the character is messy or more focused to order, everything, even colors can tell about personality. And that's okay because sometimes when I'm designing an environment, an entire environment, sometimes the hardest part is like asking myself, okay, what does like this character like? What kind of figurines? What kind of wallpaper will to use? That's the first one. However, there is a second fact, and that involves getting a lot of reference because one thing that it tends to happen is that when we are creating something from our minds, is like a pretty strange perspective because everything we put is like every part have some kind of usefulness, utility, and you start saying like, oh, all right, there is this subject because the is used for this or this subject is for that and everything. But the problem is that life is not that way. Eh, Usually, for example, this desk, the desk I'm here. I have in my 3DS. I'm using my 3DS now? No, I just put it here and forget about it. And that's a more about life that put in a pretty organized way and things like that. So yeah, sometimes it's necessary to loot photos or messy rooms, messy everything, and start start to balance the personality, the elements that fit the character, and how will be the life, how everything works. Nature have an order, but at the same time is a disorder. So you must need that the difference, the way that life works. Hello.
Mm, yes. Okay. So generally, we need to first not just have the character design, but also we need to know more about their personality and about maybe some background story about them and maybe anything like that as well, aside
Give me a
from
second.
the character design itself, in order to design their environment.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And what about maybe if we want to design an environment to tell a story, because games usually have a story to tell, and how can we use the environments of the game in order to explain it, maybe?
Um, that's a really fun topic. Eh, I will categorize environments in two ways: eh, urban environments and natural environments. All right?
Yeah, yeah.
Eh, and Italian environments, but we talked a lot about them before.
Mm-hmm.
Eh, yeah. When we're talking about natural environments, what tells the story is the terrain, the topography.
Mm.
First, think about the kind of terrain of the the kind of biome that is in your environment, as if it's a desert, if it's a mountain, if it's cold, and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Even if you are designing something sci-fi or something more fantasy, you must be aware that the world is never is a plane unless you are
Mm-hmm.
in the desert, and even deserts and plain. Everything have mountains, and for example those are process for years of erosion. And for example, when you have that idea of the terrain, then you can start working like, for example, the trees. There are different trees for different type of biomes. Um and for example, you must start thinking that trees have three types of high, as high, medium, and low. Grass. If you want to add paths, you must be sure that there are more straightforward or aligned to the terrain. And usually I would say that the life of a landscape, a natural landscape, is more refined by the
Mm-hmm.
topography and later the vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
And later you can start adding more life like animals and everything. But yeah, usually I would say the natural is defined by the relation to the terrain. However, urban landscapes and environments are distinct and a huge pain.
What? Can you repeat the last sentence?
The urban landscapes
Urban
are a total
landscapes
pain. Urban
are.
landscapes
Mm-hmm.
are a pain.
Are what?
Eh, be- a pain.
A pain. Okay.
Eh, how could I say? Um, let's put it in this way. The concept of city is something that's been studied times ago.
Mm-hmm.
Is pretty complex. There is many things, and for example, one day I was thinking about doing a video game cities analysis according
Mm-hmm.
to the perspective of an urbanist. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, However, something that happens to with urban elastic when they're doing from nothing is that they don't have the hierarchies. They don't have the elements that you could say see the city and say, oh, there is that is a place where people live.
Mm-hmm.
and and usually I would say that to tell a story with a town, with a city, with anything you need, uh, you must first think about the nodes. That's a urban concept that is basically points where people meet each other, points where there is main activities, uh, points where you will add events, for example. And and as I started creating rods, or see rods,
Hmm?
and and those rods start connecting every single nodes, every single point of the city, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like the urbanist basics of doing a city. And
Mm-hmm.
then you start adding in life.
Mm-hmm.
What it means adding life? Usually cities have trash, have uh, ads. It has something that many environments artists we love doing,
Mm-hmm.
which is air conditioner machines.
Ah, yes.
You can start adding graffiti. You can start adding almost everything you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I
Okay,
was
so
uh,
it does sound like we need to first figure out the world building for the game and maybe establish that first. Because there are so many things that influence the
yeah,
landscape of a city, sure. Like, actually, you're really right when you said what kind of advertisement we have in the city. And we need to take into consideration that there is also trash in the streets sometimes, and they're not very usually clean. And we kind of do need to think about maybe the laws that we have in the city. Maybe there are anti graffiti laws, and then there will be no graffiti. Or maybe there are no such laws, and then
mm,
there will be a lot of it. There's a lot of
yeah,
world building to do before we can actually get to draw the environments.
yeah, yeah. That's right.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, okay. So basically, we will need to do a lot of writing and establishing all of these things maybe in documents first. But assuming we already have an environment in mind, in games, there are cases where you want to lead the player's eyes to look at specific points on the screen in order, to progress the player in the level and stuff like that. So, I want to hear some tips from you on how to do it in an organic way.
uh, for to doing in an organic way, when it comes to video games, doing cities is pretty complex
Yeah.
because sometimes people are too mm, ambitious and say, "No, I want that my city had everything and you could see everything." But life is like that. For example, when you go to a building or to your job, you aren't exploring every house of your neighbor. No. Eh, so something something that I would recommend in game development at the moment of doing cities, doing things, is that everything doesn't have to be interactable, because many times you are playing a role, and a role or a character, and many times you just want to go from point E to point B. Now, uh, other thing about cities and developing them in a video game settings to give a function and everything, I will say that is the utilizing the hierarchy system, which is creating landmarks, creating plazas, creating points, important points, and giving them more height to other buildings or other colors, or make that a road connect direct to themselves, or for example making the building look more important,
Mm-hmm.
more more part of the landscape, of course. And for example, when it comes to, for example, cities, you can put statues. To make it feel lively, you must have the concept of roads, nodes,
Mm-hmm.
hierarchies, and think how people will live there interact with this kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, and at the same way, there is the game design aspect to make it convenient because sometimes you can try or want to do a pretty realistic city and you start adding things and more things, and then getting from point A to point B, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it's like a lot to draw. And for what? For like a few seconds of gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes being too ambitious or trying to make it more realistic can be detrimental for the development of the game. So unless you made a system that helps you to get from one point to another point in an easy way, or you can wait feel the game, then yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. That's cool. That's very cool. Um, and let's say like we're making a 2D platformer, and I don't know, we want to do some level design. Okay, this is a scenario, and it doesn't have to be necessarily in a city environment, like a cyberpunk city environment, but we can go for it if you would like. So let's say we're making a platformer in some kind of environment, and we want the character to go into a certain direction. How would you suggest to design the level in order to make it seem very natural to go to that specific direction?
Look, something that is an absolute rule, that is a basic rule that will happen, is that if you put a character in a 2D setting and you make everything to make say that you must go to that point, the first thing that everybody will do is going the other way. And you must be,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what wouldn't try to go to the left side in the first Mario Bros, for example.
Really?
And yeah, everybody does that. Even now, even now in 3D games, everybody goes to the other side because it's like, oh, maybe there is a secret. Or oh, I wonder what
Ah,
happens
yeah.
if it happens here. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes sometimes we are like 2 years of kids. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what
Mm-hmm.
happened if I lick this? Uh, However, the more natural way where everybody does that is that, for example, they put an invisible wall, or
Mm.
they use put something that says like, no, you can go for this way. And I was that is not natural because if war have invisible walls, then it will be pretty awful.
Yeah, that's not very natural. I would,
Yeah.
if I was going to approach this kind of task, I would maybe consider playing with saturation of the background. Like, create the background more, use like more saturated colors towards the direction that I want the player to go to. So the player will automatically be drawn to it with color. What do you think?
Yes. L- I mean, yes, but make sure to add not invisible words, not but will seem more like a rail or something that avoid the character or pers- the person that is playing. avoid going to the other way. For example, you can put
Mm-hmm.
a cliff, you can put a river, you can put something that feels part of the scenery that blocks the sense. And then the player will say, okay, no secret. Then they will go to the mine and you can play, you can put everything you want. The colors, making more dramatic, defining which element is important for the game. But yeah, I think that sometimes the important thing is first setting boundaries, later putting important elements that call the attention.
Mm-hmm. Yes, also putting in elements that are more interesting and eye-catching. They can also
Mhm.
tell the character where to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this doesn't just apply to platformer games, but also like I guess any type of game, and it's also not just pixel games. Hmm. But I do want to hear about your perspective about 2D games and pixel art versus isometric pixel art games. Like, let's say I'm a game developer and now I want to make my dream game, my own RPG or anything like that, you know? So, I want you to help me choose between the two styles. Um, Maybe let's give example first for a regular 2D game. Maybe Celeste. Celeste is a cool platformer, and it's 2D, 2D pixel art. And for isometric, um, you mentioned previously Chrono Trigger. Is Chrono Trigger isometric, or maybe Stardew Valley?
Isometric games, it will be like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Ah,
Uh,
uh-huh.
Chrono Trigger and other RPGs are more like top view perspective.
Ah, okay, okay. So Chrono Trigger is more a top view. Okay, okay. I sometimes confuse between a top down view and isometric. Okay. So yeah, yeah. Please, maybe share your perspective on the pros and cons of 2D and isometric, so I will know what to choose for my game.
All right. Uh, Look, I will not say that the genre is tied to the style. First, that's the first thing. You must limit yourself because if 2D or is isometric or that, because everything can be made to work. You can do a hack and slash in isometric, and it's carry headies. Now, what are the pros and cons? Usually, in the level of work needed, the level of technical knowledge, technical techniques that you need is what will determine the pros and cons of every kind of graphic you do. For example, if you are doing 2D graphics, you must be aware if the character will jump or if the character just will walk um, and everything. And you will see that it only needs left side, right side, but sometimes you will need that the character look to the camera and things like that. However, if, for example, you are doing something that for example, requires more tree movement or that you want it to have more depth, then having a 2D is like contraproducent. Ho- Look, being honest, I will say that don't limit yourself to the genres and the kind of style.
Mm.
the main difference are the technical levels, the level of work, the kind of graphic you will have to do, the kind of mechanics you will have to program. And for example, if you are an artist and you are starting to make your game,
Mhm.
then you aren't gonna want to do a full 3D game with hundreds of mechanics and everything. You must first set your boundaries, first you look at your focus, look if you want to focus more on gameplay, more on story, more on other of things, and see, okay, and until you said, okay, how can I tell the story?
Mhm.
Can this story be told as a 2D or as an isometric? How can how do I want to show everything? How do I want to
Mhm.
make that game fun? How do I make, how I can make it more engaging
Mhm.
and everything? If you want something more slow, you can do it in isometric, you can do it in top view, you can do it in 2D. Lastly, these days, everybody has been innovating the fields. Are people saying, how about 2D hack and slash? And that is one. How about, I don't know, 2D RPG, Thread Sys. And so, so yeah, just put your focus, set boundaries, and don't be too ambitious.
Ah, don't be too ambitious, especially when you're just one person on the team, or maybe
Yeah.
a very small team. Hmm. Yeah, but I do feel sometimes that isometric is also top down. They're both a little bit harder to draw than 2D because of the different perspective, and then you need to make everything make sense. Ah, this is very confusing for me personally.
Yeah, usually look to down have set I mean isometric have the to know to link to differentiate or to have an idea how does it work is that it have the rule that it must have two angles, two 45 angles or two
Yeah, 45
30
ankles.
angles. The fact is that isometric make use of these angles.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, that's the main difference of the view, 3D, and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I first need to learn how to play with perspective and then maybe I can get into isometric. So for now, I will stay with 2D because for me personally, it's easier.
Yeah, but I recommend learning isometric because it's pretty fun and you can learn a lot about 3D objects from isometric.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. The isometric will definitely like force the 3D skills out of you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for the really awesome tips for this part. Mm. Now, maybe let's talk about the role play groups that you're taking part of. Um, Retribute and Nord. Is that correct? These are two role play groups that you're participating.
Yeah. I was more main administrator. I mean, I created all the mechanics
Oh, wait, wait,
and
wait. So you are the DM, like
yep.
the. Oh, okay. You are the DM for those. Okay, okay, okay. Nice. Yes. Carry on.
Yeah. Uh, First, I will give a little resume of what was those two roleplay groups.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Basically, like my dream was always doing a game, but I don't know how to program or compose it. Uh, I found that the roleplay community system and everything would be pretty nice to use it. As you don't have to program or anything. Uh, and so when I started this project with my third wife, with my wife, uh, we working on something that had this core mechanic that there are creatures and you could capture these creatures and every
Oh,
creature transforming in one kind of weapon and and every creature tells you as different skills and it was a pretty fun project. We got like over 100 creatures to capture and
what? That's a lot.
yeah,
This
that's a
is
lot.
like
And
Pokemon, almost. But you're one
yeah,
person doing it. Well, not one person. Also, you're doing it with your wife. But still, this is a lot.
yeah. Eh, Usually we got help from other people, but the main thing was me and my wife. Yeah.
She also knows how to draw.
She knows how to draw, but no pixel art. She's
Ah, no.
more,
So you
yeah,
were in charge. You were in charge of all of the pixel art of all of those creatures.
correct. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Oh, that's a lot. And you say that
Yeah,
they use different skills, and they
yeah.
can also transform
Excuse me?
the creatures that you created. They can also sort of like transform or evolve.
Yeah, there was a reincarnation system where you could customize your weapon.
Oh.
And yeah, for example, all the creatures have weapon forms by default. For example, a creature will transform in a katana, another
Mm.
creature will transform in a gun, and things like that.
Oh.
And but later we added systems that let you customize all your creatures and make crazy things. And among that I designed the system to make skills, to make events where
Mm.
everybody was connected and everybody was participating, and it was like 20 people connected at
Oh.
interacting at the same time,
Wow.
and sometimes well, as everything was written, then I sometimes spend like 20 minutes only writing the actions and everything,
Mm.
and think, and usually the plot was me and my wife, and it was pretty fun. It was pretty
Mm.
fun. It
Yeah.
had a lot of work because when we manage a user database,
Mm-hmm.
because to have a following of every user creature, their experience, their
Mm-hmm.
levels, their weapons, everything.
Ah. Yeah, so aside from
And
drawing everything, you also had to plan everything, all of the skills and how the systems work with each other and the skills and the environment. So uh, not it's not just drawing everything and designing everything, but it's also writing a lot of documents.
yeah,
Oh.
that yeah, there was a lot of writing, and even sometimes as we wanted to the game to the roleplay kid or keep engaging with adding new mechanics, new
Hmm.
shops. For example, in the first group we have a alchemy system.
Oh,
Yeah,
you created an
and I
alchemy
just in it.
system.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I just in an alchemy system, and it worked kind of well.
Oh, okay, okay.
It got a little lot of handbook details.
And you also, I guess, created also designed items and stuff that the players can use too.
Yeah, as
Mm.
for example, the to evolve creatures use gems.
Gems. I like that.
Gems. Yeah. So every creature they carry different amount of gems. So we have to keep a registry of every amount of gems that each user had.
Oh, wow, wow, wow. And you have to keep track of everything all the time.
Yeah, usually the tasks were separated between the DMs because the DMs were me, my wife, and usually we contacted one or two users to help us
Hmm.
because the work got pretty overwhelming, and that's why now I'm pretty serious about the focus and the I forgot the word,
Hmm?
the boundary, because
Hmm.
many times I suffer from that kind of ambition. I wanted to do
Mhm.
more. Sometimes I say, sometimes I say, no. I want that the next update will be 35 creatures, 35 new creatures because all the creatures were coming by updates.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And we do this, it comes new maps and everything. And I say like, okay, I made this list for the new creatures we are going to add to this month. And later when I was working on the sprites and everything, we look, I managed to do like 10, and it was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You need to keep
Yeah,
the scale of in mind of whatever project you're working on because you can let your imagination go into wild, wild, wild places, and then you end up with way too much work than you can actually handle, especially as a small team. So, keeping
yeah,
keeping in mind the scale and what are the core mechanics and core characters of the story that you want to tell. You really need to keep those in mind and keep yourself in check to make sure that you're not going way too overboard because uh, this is a way to
so,
get yourself burnt out and maybe
yeah,
leave the project completely.
yeah. Usually, the first project lasted 1 year and a half,
Oh.
we had we have to close it because I was dedicating more to the group
Mm.
than to my master,
You
and
did it during
and
your
that,
studies?
yeah.
No.
So I the college almost kicked me out. Yeah,
Okay.
and the
But you were
second
able to
project.
finish your master's degree, so that's fine.
Yeah. See, I just say like, hey, I'm going to be kicked off the college, and at the same time, because it's an international, because I'm immigrant, if I was kicked off the college, I I did have to return to my country. So yeah,
Oh. Oh wow, 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 wow. So you
yeah,
really had
and
like you really had to keep yourself in check to make sure that your hobby didn't consume all of your life.
yeah, and the second project, it lasted 2 years.
Oh, two
It
years.
started in 2020 in the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty active at the beginning because everybody was home stuck.
Yeah.
And it was nice, but eventually after 2 years the pandemic was lowering, everything everyone was getting jobs or getting busy, including me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty worn out, so we had to say, yeah, no more. And
Mm.
vice.
Yeah. But I think you have enough material that you've created and designed to make it into an actual video game. Like with some coding skills, maybe was a programmer in the project. So do you think you will want to create a video game out of all of the
Oh,
work that you've done?
oh yeah. One day I will do the normal video game. the
Mm-hmm,
part two
mm-hmm.
video game. That's definite. However, it will require many technical knowledge and everything. So now, I with our friends, we did a dev team for a visual novel to start.
Oh, 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 that's so
Yeah,
cool. Wow.
yeah.
Good luck. I would love to
Yeah.
play it when it comes out.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we're planning the plot for now, but yeah, we'll be working in a visual novel with different thematic and everything.
Hmm. Oh, so
It will
you
be
have
slowly.
actually started working on making it into an actual game.
Uh, my role play group, those are going to be video games, but I will
Mhm.
start developing then much later when I have the resources.
Yes, yes, of course, of course. It
Yeah.
takes
So
a
see.
lot of time and a lot of money. I wish you to get there as soon as you can, so you can
Mm,
finally
Yeah.
get started.
Yeah. See. Ho- And that's why we are working now in a visual novel because it's more easier and more takeable as a group of 4 people.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I hope you
Yeah.
will be able to
And
also
that's it.
add more people to the project so
And
it
thank
can
you.
get faster. Yes. Anything
Yes.
else that you would like to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
Um, Fungi friends, not food.
Yes, yes.
Aside of that, no, nothing.
Okay. Okay, okay. So I will put some links in the description on where to find you on social media. So if you guys want to follow Terracota, then please look down. And yeah, Terracota, thank you so much for coming today.
No, thank you for inviting me.
Yay! Okay, so,
Yes.
and also thank you to our listeners for listening. Have a lovely, lovely, lovely rest of your day.